Gambia yetu hakuna matata.
watching the Gambia radio and television services. The time is exactly 20 hours in Banjul. We now bring you the news with me, Fatoumata Sise, in our top stories. Vice President Aja Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang arrives in Addis Ababa to attend the African Summit. The visiting Belgian investors conclude their week-long visit to Banjul. Authorities in Rwanda say the fight against corruption is the reason behind the country's top ranking as the least corrupt nation in East Africa. And African Union leaders descend on Ethiopia for the 30th ordinary session of the AU Summit. These plus other stories will come up in just a moment. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. And the Vice President, Her Excellency Aja Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang and delegation Saturday evening arrived in Addis Ababa to take part in the ongoing 30th African Union Summit. The Gambian ambassador to Addis Ababa, Suleiman Gay, received Madam Jallow Tambajang and delegation before she later took part in the closed-door extraordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State of ECOWAS. And we'll have details of that story by GRTS's Khadijat Jallow, and it will be aired in our subsequent news bulletins. Meanwhile, a team of Belgian trade investors left the country after exploring possible investment cooperation with their Gambian counterparts, and they were seen off by staff of Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency and the Gambian ambassador to Brussels, Her Excellency Madam Tenengba Jaite. Sibu Kamara has more in this report.
A Belgian delegation from the Belgian Trade and Investment Mission who were in the country to explore possible investment and cooperation left Banjul after what was described as a successful trip. Shortly before departure, the visiting team also toured part of the Banjul International Airport, including the Nature Park, to find means of improving the facility. The Chief Executive Officer of GAIPA, Hassan Fall, thanked their Belgian counterparts for being part of the first ever trade and investment mission for Belgian companies in the Gambia. Mr. Fall added that the initiative will help to further strengthen bilateral relations and cooperation between Banjul and Brussels. The Gambia's ambassador to Belgium, Her Excellency Tenengba Jaite, who described the business forum as a successful one, believed the relationship boosts the Gambia's economy. It is hoped that the outcome of the recently concluded two-day Gambia-Belgium Economy Mission Trade and Investment Forum will create and employ opportunities for young people in the country. Saudi Kamara, GRTS News.
Solution-based spirituality and international movement Saturday held its 4th international forum. The engagement brought together members and partners from the Gambia and beyond. More on that in this report by GRTS's Isaac Keita.
It is the 4th international forum under the auspices of Solution by Spirituality, bringing together a cross-section of members from the Gambia, Senegal and beyond. Established in the Gambia in 2014, Solution by Spirituality is an international movement that advocates spirituality against the ills of mankind.
It engages in helping the needy, bridging the gap between race, religion, gender, etc. in a spiritual manner, derived from the teaching of spirituality. We work towards providing the request support of all people as the saying goes, charity begins at home. The movement inspires to make a greater impact not only in our society, but the nation at large.
This international forum, like the previous ones, seeks to look at ways of better addressing problems in the world through spirituality, with focus on poverty alleviation, peaceful coexistence, amongst others. Hence its theme, the world in crisis, and if the solution above all is spiritual.
This year, the general theme of the forum focuses on the spirituality as the main report to the world in crisis. We are always that the solution is at the levels of these evidence because you are the world. The Quran, it said, and I quote, events as apparent on land and sea because all that the hand of man have had that he may make them task of part of the which they have done. The world will not change. It is your will to act on this head in this attitude. It is this answer that is definite the term of the parents with a specific way, focuses on the factor that accompanies this crisis.
Cultural diversity and peace, role of young people in development and combating climate change are key points to be hammered home by guest speakers and experts. As they leave the confines of this hall to their various destinations, expectations are that discussions and recommendations that will emanate from the day-long forum will act as a springboard to bring about attitudinal change for the better, thus helping the movement to achieve its desired objective. For GRTS News, I am Aissatou Keita.
Spelling Aids Reading and Take EM, an NGO based in the West Coast region, is promoting students' language skills by organizing annual spelling competitions in the Gambia. Layman has more on the 2018 competition.
Leather.
Take EM, an NGO founded by Tunde Ogondimu, is helping to build a Gambia through education. Through its Spelling Bee program, the NGO organizes annual spelling competitions for children in lower basic schools. Recently, at the Semeka Janes Hall in Bundung, 15 lower basic schools qualified for the 2018 national competition, including Lighthouse, represented by Aissatou Jallow, and Kingdom Heritage Lower Basic School, represented by Jamsin Boshing.
Without education, there's nothing we can do. And I want you all to believe it, English language is a tool of communication. And to promote this, we need to start from the grassroots.
Humane, humane.
Spelling is important, particularly in early grades, because it is in reading. It also helps cement the connection that is shared between sounds and letters.
Trying to give education a value and also to promote the value of education in the Gambia through the art of spelling. And we know that when a child or a student is able to read properly, 50% of that student's problem is already solved. So reading is very, very important, and one of the ways to enhance reading is through the art of spelling.
Learning high-frequency sight words is also intended to help with both reading and writing, and that is what Mr. Tunde's Spelling Bee does.
When they can spell, then they can pronounce. Once they can pronounce, they have solved their academic challenge.
The National Spelling Bee competitions comes with bonanzas of prizes, all but to motivate the participants. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
The National Youth Council has held a day sensitization campaign on the effects of child marriage and related issues in the Lower River settlement of Soma. The advocacy exercise, which also seeks to strategize on addressing these issues, targets 200 youth and community elders across the region. Kumbaba tells us more.
In the Gambia, the rights of children are clearly articulated in the Children's Act, which include the right to voice their opinion, safety and survival, as well as grow up in a protective environment. It is against this backdrop that the National Youth Council engaged local communities on the dangers associated with FGM and child marriage.
The council feel it prudent as the body that is mandated or that is sanctioned by the government of the Gambia to look at the protection, development and empowerment of young people. See it as a very important activity that we can do to ensure that we save and protect our children, most especially girls going through some of these irrelevant traditional practices that is only posing health hazards or health difficulties on our young people. The reason why we engage the young people about this discussion was like the theme goes, never in my generation. We knew already there is a generational gap between us and the old age, so this is why they are not our target much. The target is the young people to ensure that FGM is not only stopped, but is abolished at least within our generation.
Lamin Jai, a lecturer at the Community Health Nursing School, dilated on the health complications in respect to child marriage and female genital mutilation.
There are many effects of FGM, but and it's divided into immediate complications and one-time complications. So the immediate complications, one, and that is very common, is pain because of the operation or incision performed on the female genitalia. They undergo serious of pain.
Child marriage and FGMC is something that has been bothering and disturbing girls since day one. We've been following it because it's our tradition, but I think it's a tradition that is harming us. It is doing more harm than good.
According to Usman Jassi, the issue of child marriage and FGM remains a cross-cutting issue which calls for concerted efforts. Participants also expressed gratitude for taking part in the campaign. With child marriage and FGM seen as a human rights violation, a practice that undermines efforts to promote sustainable development, this campaign may be very helpful in ensuring that child protection is effectively and sustainably integrated in the key sectors. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Kumbaba. In the Gambia,
officials of the National Environment Agency Saturday witnessed a massive cleansing exercise in Kiankunala, organized by youth of the community. The exercise is part of the development aspirations of the settlement. Ibama Jala was there and filed in this report.
This was the actual work done. Youths of the community at home and away converged to clean their native village to promote health and development with sound environmental guidelines. Under the community association called Dembani Nyako, the initiative, according to organizers, was conceived to foster unity among them and bring about sustainable development for the community.
We embark on so many activities in the village here. This is one of them. Every year, we come to the village here. Sometimes people may have disasters and other things. We intervene and give support to them.
We have a lot of objectives and we set a lot of work plan to achieve for a period of 5 years minimum. But we find out that we have those challenges, which is financial issue is part of it. And these are one of the factors that we really find it very difficult to have our objectives achieved, because we really want to do a lot in the village.
The move was described as exemplary and in line with government's environmental management policies. Abdul Samadou Haidara is an environmental inspector at the National Environment Agency.
The importance of this cleansing exercise is to protect the environment, to protect the public health, and also to protect other insects and other animals within the vicinity of this environment.
Various speakers, including the village head Lamin Manjang and Chief of Kiang Central Demba Sanyang, commended the youth for the move. They also called for government support for water and electricity extension.
The environment is everybody's business. So I assume it's one of its kind, and it's one of its kind here. Our people in the campus all came, so we are together today. The coexistence.
This is a way that it will help us to come together, especially those who are residing in the community here. So we see that they cannot do it alone. They need support from us who are living there. So we take this thing as an opportunity to help us come together to unite as one family.
The day-long activity ended with thorough sensitization on harmful solid and gaseous waste. Sheikh Al-Kinki Sanyang of NEA particularly explained the dangers of plastics.
narrowed the activities instead of going to approach it from a bigger perspective. We have narrowed the activities.
That's meant what little funding there is goes to mainstream sports, leaving others struggling to get by, a challenge they're trying to take in stride.
It is what it is. We do the best of what we have.
Everyone here hopes a new political dispensation will usher in brighter prospects for the game they love. Fare Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
We'll be back with more international stories after this break. Do stay tuned.
I'm G, and I'm in Busby right now. I use AfriCell 4G because it has the fastest speed and the widest coverage. I'm going to show you why I choose AfriCell. This is my phone. It has a real 4G SIM card from AfriCell. And here's the same exact phone with another 4G SIM card from a different network. Let's do a speed test. I'm getting full coverage with my AfriCell that reads 80.4 Mbps, and this one is getting like 13.65. This is proof that AfriCell by far has the fastest speed and the widest coverage.
Hurry now and go change your AfriCell SIM card for free to 4G SIM cards and get 1 GB for free. Yes, you heard me right. It's absolutely free. And this time, the offer is for a limited time. So hurry and go replace your AfriCell SIM card with the real 4G SIM card.
Where AfriCell goes, no one has the speed to follow.
Welcome back. We'll take you to Rwanda now because the country is ranked the least corrupt country in East Africa, according to Transparency International. The government attributes this success to public-private initiatives and harsh penalties for public servants convicted of corruption. We have details in this report.
Transparency International ranks the country as the 50th least corrupt globally. It moved up 4 spaces last year in the annual Corruption Perception Index. In sub-Saharan Africa, Rwanda ranks 3rd, tied with Mauritius. The government attributes this to a number of successful public-private initiatives, among them Rwanda Online, known as Irembo.
We have more than 80 government services on Irembo. We group them into business areas or government business areas. Those business areas can be civil status, identification of people, transport, anything to do with driving license, vehicle registration, real estate, anything to do with land transfer, getting a building permit or authorization to build. We already have traffic fines on Irembo, and of course our platform is solicited when the traffic fine is issued. So when the traffic fine is issued, because of the integration, we know the driver, we are integrated with the database of driving license. The good thing is, one, you know that this traffic fine is issued and it's stored electronically. For this traffic fine to be removed from the system, someone needs to pay electronically. There is no payment directly to a person, so you need to pay using mobile money, you need to pay using your debit or credit card. That's the only time the fine is removed. So there is little chance for any human intervention to come in the system and remove a traffic fine that has been issued. So yeah, I mean, this really decreases chances of any corruption in terms of trying to pay someone for them to hide your ticket or not even paying it.
The company was started 4 years ago with a staff complement of just 5.
I paid for a service, but I didn't get it. I'm able to see that because the person that applies is me or someone that assists me, and there's a way of identifying them. And I think because everybody knows it and that path is clear, people avoid like corruption or taking money from the citizen because they know anytime they can go back and we'll be able to trace them.
But even with this system, bribery still occurs. The latest Rwanda bribery index shows over $40 million were paid in bribes in 2016, mainly at local government level.
Let's head to Addis Ababa, where the African Union Peace and Security Council has proposed to the international community a global urgent war against terrorism. The continent's council met at the level of heads of state on Saturday night in Addis Ababa and decided to work hand in hand in combating the scourge of terrorism. CGTN's Jerome Chala reports.
Peace and Security Council meeting attended by heads of state and governments has assessed the growing terrorist activities in Africa. The current chair of the AU Peace and Security Council, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah, will approach in the war against terror.
Terrorism is a threat that affects all of us throughout the globe, and we can only combat it with a global approach which begins with a war, if I can say so, to fight terrorism using whatever means we have at our disposal so that our people will have a future that is safe.
The African Union believes that the trans-boundary nature of terrorism is jeopardizing the very existence of sovereign states on the continent. The evolving nature of attacks, coupled with the emergence of more sophisticated alliances among terrorist groups, has posed a threat beyond the capacity of many African states.
It is all the more urgent that we are attending to the ramification of the threats to global threat and security. And obviously there are thousands of terrorist combatants that are spreading around our continent. This calls for greater coordination at the regional and continental level among the leaders and the intelligence and law and order.
The UN agrees that a comprehensive global approach in fighting terrorism is the right approach.
The devastating consequences of the threat posed by terrorism in Africa demand collective and comprehensive action. No single nation, institution or organization can defeat terrorism in Africa or anywhere else. We need a sustained, cooperative and coordinated approach in tackling this menace.
Many say apart from the coordinated fight against terror, Africa needs to also address the root cause of conflict and emergence of terrorists. The work of eradicating poverty and winning the fight against corruption in Africa are all most important ingredients to end the suffering of people in the continent. Group Jana CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
That's all we have time for in this edition of the news, but before we go, a recap of the top stories once again. Vice President Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang has arrived in Addis Ababa to attend the African Union Summit. And the visiting Belgian investors have concluded their week-long visit to Banjul. Authorities in Rwanda have said that the fight against corruption is the reason behind the country's top ranking as the least corrupt nation in East Africa. And African Union leaders have descended on Ethiopia for the 38th ordinary session of the AU Summit. That was all in this edition of the News at 8 with me, Fatoumata Sise. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back in the studios at 2200 hours with more news. Until then, stay tuned.